We have another loaded week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, there's a Sun-Saturn conjunction occurring, causing us to find a more constructive way to boost our confidence. There will be a fair amount of Venus transits over these next bunch of days, which might rev up the urge to work on love life situations. And Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn will be the dominant energies over these next 7 days, enunciating the need to take action. And considering that this is a loaded week, the vibes on the graph are very active. Kicking things off, there's a steady stream of mental and social energy. Considering the quality of transits we have this week, it's a phase to contemplate our next steps and gain some mental clarity. Also, there may be moments where we feel more open than typical to social interaction. As we get to midweek, these energies will intersect psychic and ambitious vibes. Because of the nature of this week, we might feel motivated to get things done, to accomplish some of the goals that we had on the back burner, but also we may feel more psychically in tune and go with our gut instincts. Although there's some Neptune transits that may bring in a little bit of confusion, we can experience moments where our intuition is actually spot on throughout this week. And this week is a little contradictory considering the plethora of energies we have. We have a multitude of energies, some harmonious and some that are problematic. And for that reason, solitude's going to intersect social vibes from the 26th to the 1st. There are just certain times transit-wise where we get a mix of problematic versus harmonious transits. And so it can make us feel like our moods are fluctuating. It can give us the mood to be around people one moment and then be in a mood where we just want to be to ourselves the next. And so we'll be experiencing some of that throughout the 26th all the way up until about the 1st. And then there's some other stuff as we get to the weekend, because that's also a mixed bag period throughout this week. Good luck energy will be with us until the 2nd and connect with these mental and social vibes. So this may give us the confidence we need to take certain risks that end up paying off and becoming beneficial later on. Then by Saturday and Sunday, we have romantic vibes and emotional sensitivity. And this is where we have a mix of flirty and edgy transits going on. So we may feel amorous one moment and then aggravated the next. So yeah, we have another colorful week. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. As a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. There's a link in the description box below. Over the next 72 hours, we'll need to be mindful about taking on more than we can manage due to a few unconstructive alignments with Mars, Jupiter, and Neptune. Mars is going to connect to Jupiter and Neptune in ways that may feel problematic and at the same time fun. And this is more related to the Mars-Jupiter situation. These two planets are going to square one another, creating moments where we feel more enthusiastic than normal, we feel capable, we feel confident, and for this reason, we'll feel like we can move mountains. We'll feel like we can conquer anything. We'll be in the mood to be social, we'll be in the mood to take more risk, be adventurous, and really just get into a celebratory tone. So a vibe like this can be really upbeat. However, it does have its things where we definitely need to be mindful about. And because of the enthusiasm of this energy, we may feel more motivated than typical to take on more than we can handle. So we may find ourselves overbooking ourselves. We may find ourselves taking on more projects than we can actually handle and end up reaching a bottleneck as a result, because this is one of those alignments where we might overpromise something and then underdeliver later. A transit like this enunciates taking bold steps. So sometimes the risk we take may not really be worth it. It may come from a place of impulse, or again, because of the Jupiterian feel, we might feel euphoric and like luck is on our side and we end up rushing into something or thinking something's a sure thing and it really isn't. Especially with that Neptune stuff going on in the background, we're going to want to be really cautious about doing anything that might be problematic later. We'll also have to be mindful of our tempers with energy like this as well, because Mars and Jupiter together, it tends to inflate things, and so we may blow things out of proportion. Our tempers may be flared up more than typical. As I always say, Mars square Jupiter, Mars opposed Jupiter, any Mars-Jupiter transit that's a hard transit is bar fight energy. And just because it's the beginning of the week, it doesn't mean that you can't get into a bar fight or some sort of scuffle, especially because an energy like this revs up our aggressive side and the tendency to run our mouths. So do the best you can with this, because Neptune and Mars are going going to connect. Mars is going to make a semi-square with Neptune. And also, Venus is going to get thrown in for good measure because Venus and Mars happen to be in Aquarius and they're traveling together. So both Mars and Venus are making a semi-square to Neptune. So all this combined with the Jupiter square will lead to moments where we need to be mindful of excess being overdoing it, over-consuming things. And by over-consuming things, it could be food, it could be drink, it could be substances, because the need to escape will be more prevalent than typical with the energy like this. We'll need to be aware of impulsivity as well. With Mars's connection to Neptune, we need to be aware of being too impetuous and doing things because we just want to take action right away, but it may not go in our favor later, especially because our judgment tends to be clouded under this and we make impulsive decisions that we may end up regretting later on. Also, be aware of your dosages when it comes down to things, because sometimes within an energy like this, again, we can overconsume, and sometimes that might be something that makes us feel off kilter. And this clouded judgment will continue with the Venus stuff, especially concerning our love lives and finances. So this Venus connection may highlight situations that we know are bad for us, but haven't addressed and have swept under the rug. And now we're having to deal with the inconvenient reality of it all. So an energy like this, even though it's uncomfortable, it does give us that push needed to look at situations for what they are and to not turn a blind eye to deceitful behavior. When it comes down to finances, this may be a time where we have to take a look at where we're being too careless when it comes down to our funds. So this could be a period where we look at the problematic areas of our life that we need to take care of, especially with what's coming up on the 28th. From the 28th to the 1st, the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn are going to connect with one another. And while they're doing this, they're also going to connect with Jupiter. Well, the Sun and Mercury will connect with Jupiter. Saturn already did its dance with Jupiter back in February. So now it's the Sun and Mercury's turn. Eventually, that'll be Venus connecting with Jupiter and then Mars once they get into Pisces. One of the biggest highlights in this conjunction is the Sun and Saturn. The Sun and Saturn are making their annual conjunction with one another. So this starts a new phase and a power up for Saturn. So this conjunction will reinvigorate Saturn to do his thing concerning maturity, stability, responsibility, time management, hard work, taking things seriously, and committing to the right things, and doing what's constructive. And the way a transit like this could make us feel is it could encourage us to have a more realistic and constructive sense of self. The thing with this transit is it is very sobering in a lot of ways, so it's not one of the most jolly transits. However, it does help us take a more realistic look about things concerning our ego. So if something is not serving our confidence, this may be a time to let it go. This may be a time to get realistic about some sort of goal we were chasing that was more tied to how it makes us look concerning notoriety or chasing popularity. This can be one of those times where we're taking a realistic look at those types of goals to see if they're really aligned with our purpose or if they're really a distraction for our ego. This could also be a time where we're looking at an unsustainable sense of self, and that could be tied to those types of things as well. So if we've been taking on a persona that's not necessarily aligned with who we are, this may be a time to shed that. This could also show us where we've taken on too many responsibilities and it's resulted in feeling overburdened. This can show where we might have been working hard on something and we're not necessarily seeing the results as fast as we'd like, and that in itself can feel gloomy with an energy like this. But since this is a new cycle, it can help us get on the right track. And for those who have been really working hard and diligently, this may be your time to seeing your hard work paying off. And even though that may not happen in this week, with Saturn, some of those rewards are around the corner. So even though this energy is sobering, we still have the Mercury-Saturn situation along with the Sun and Mercury conjuncting with one another. And these planets are connecting to Jupiter too. So even if we feel bogged down, we may end up having moments where we're feeling upbeat and more optimistic about our future, despite how we were feeling earlier. With that combination of Mercury and Saturn and the Sun, this may be a time where we start laying the groundwork for a master plan that's going to help sustain us in the long run, and also gain the self-assurance we need, healthy self-assurance. Great things with this energy is we're going to feel more focused, mentally we'll feel more sharp, leading to really important insights on how to fix complex circumstances in our life. Then by the time the 29th rolls around, Mercury and the Sun will connect with Jupiter in a harmonious way. Energy like this could help mitigate some of the gloomy parts of the Saturnian energy and even some of the stuff that's going on the next day. So despite the edgy vibes, we may take an upbeat look at things, which is always great, especially if things are going wrong. And not in the sense of bypassing, because bypassing our feelings is not something we want to do, but in the sense of just being like, you know what? I'm going to turn things around for myself. I'm going to make the most of this situation because that's the only option that I have at this point. And so a vibe like this can really help us in terms of believing in ourselves. It can aid us in putting on a happy face that day. And even with this mix of transits, it's great for banter. It's great for socializing. It's great for interacting with others. It also brings in this need for laughter and making a joke out of things in a good way. So a vibe like this can help our minds pivot to something more upbeat. It can help us feel like luck is on our side and result in us taking healthy risk. It's also excellent for coming out of our shell if we've been really repressed for a while or we've just felt too shy to express ourselves. This is lovely for self-expression. This is lovely for interacting with others and just being yourself. And so hopefully these uplifting vibes really carry us through, because by the time we get to Friday, Mercury, Mars, Chiron, and Pluto are going to be in problematic alignments with one another. So from Friday to Sunday, Mercury is going to make a connection with Mars, it's going to make a connection with Pluto, and it's going to make a connection with Chiron, and all of them are very heavy connections, leading to communication and thinking that's very edgy. With the connection to Mars, we may have the urge to speak up more than we typically do and be direct. And sometimes with that, even if we have good intentions, that delivery may not come out the right way. And so maybe we say something well-meaning, well-intended, and it results in bickering. Also with this, people may be on the prickly side, leading to confrontational moments, leading to dealing with people who are more touchier than typical. On top of that, Mercury is going to connect with Pluto in a difficult alignment, which could pronounce moments where we're dealing with people who are power struggling, when we're dealing with people who like to talk over others. So overall, we may notice that we're dealing with more people who need to one-up others or throw their weight around. And with that Chiron stuff, our inner critic might be more pronounced than typical. In other words, our internal dialogue may be on the not so healthy side. Also, this may bring out a more critical side of us with the way we communicate with others, not just with ourselves. So between Mercury's connection to Mars and Pluto and then this, it's going to be a mixed bag of edginess, from temperamental to saying the wrong thing to people who throw their weight around to dealing with heavy thoughts. So it'll be a period where we really need to check ourselves and find healthy coping strategies to get through some of these energies. Plus, once we get to the weekend, we have more alignments that are not like the other. At least we have a Venus-Chiron transit that can take some of the sting out the air. Around the same time we start having those hard Mercury transits, Venus is going to connect to Chiron, which may mitigate some of that harsher energy, because it's a very healing energy. It can put us in the mood to be kinder to ourselves. It can help us in terms of working on our self-esteem, valuing ourselves more, learning that it's okay to do the things that we enjoy. It can help us focus on what's important in terms of what our needs are relationally. So whether that's our romantic relationships, which mostly this is romantic relationship stuff, but it could also be our close relationships as well. Also, this may put us in the mindset to really work on our financial situations and career situations that we have going on. That way we put ourselves in a better position monetarily. Again, hopefully these vibes carry us through, because by the time we get to Sunday, we have more edgy stuff. Venus is going to make a square with Uranus. And even though this one brings in some fun elements, it does bring in some upheaval. On the fun end, we may feel more adventurous than typical. We may feel like going out and socializing, trying new things, doing things out of our norm in terms of where we hang out or the food that we're trying, but just overall seeking some novelty. The only thing with this is, on an unhealthy end, we could be seeking that novelty in a way that creates upheaval. So if we felt repressed for a while, whether that be in a romantic situation or a job situation or even our style, this is a type of energy that can pronounce the need for redesign. It can inflate our urge to bust out and break free from situations that we feel have bogged us down. It can rev up the need to get out of ruts. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get out of ruts. There's nothing wrong with wanting to revamp revamp your style. There's nothing wrong with wanting to change things up in general. At the same time, we have to do it in the healthiest way possible, because it could be a sweeping the rug from under other people's feet sort of situation that ends up blowing up in our faces. Of course, if you're in a situation that's not healthy for you, try to come up with a good strategy to get yourself out of those situations. Make sure you have a backup plan when it comes down to career situations. Make sure you're getting out of things cleanly when you're getting out of romantic situations. Overall, you want to make sure your side of the street is very spotless. And when it comes down to wanting to revamp your wardrobe, this is one of those alignments where it is not advised to do that, because you may end up with something that you don't want. You may end up picking out an outfit that later on you end up regretting, or you may end up messing your hair up. This is one of those alignments where you can get bad bangs. Or try to dye your hair blonde, but it comes out orange. And not even the cute orange, like that obvious overprocessed something went wrong with your hair sort of orange. So it's something that you want to be aware of. Do the best you can with these energies. This is an edgy weekend that we have ahead. Yeah, we've got that saving grace with Venus and Chiron. And I will say one thing when it comes down to hard transits, and I always say this with hard transits, those transits motivate us to make changes. Obviously, try and do it in the most constructive way possible. But those types of alignments motivate us to get things out the way that have been piling up for a while. And look at the areas of our lives that really require our attention and need a tweak. So yeah, these next 7 days are wild as fuck, but at least it won't be boring. Anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.